years to be able to develop one line. So knowing that, that's just the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it's definitely a way. If the industry, if we have a unified and organized effort within the industry, I think it's definitely a tool.
But going through the foundation, you don't have a legislature passage.
No. Any group can mobilize and decide that it's like membership dues. You could collect membership dues. Any group can form an organization as long as you make sure that it's, in line with the IRS. And we've gone through that process for a number of different organizations. But it's an opportunity. We'd be happy to share any information that we have. Know that when you have statute, once it's done, it's pretty much done. What would happen if it would go through our department? You get information every month as to what's being collected. We're not allowed to tell you who contributed or how much. We just give you a final amount. The other thing is it's available for public information. If anybody from any industry wants to go in there and find out how much money is being collected, they can do so. I hope I didn't discourage you.
You had a question?
No, that's good information.
Real good information, because we have a lot of resistance from going to government, right, haven't you? And now we've got another avenue.
Yeah, and I mean, again, if you want to take a look at any of our statutes and see how they're set up, and I could probably tell you which ones would be probably the closest to what you're trying to accomplish. Are you looking at promotion and research? So I can give you some examples of what I think might be in line with what you're looking at. And again, you can set it up as a private foundation using that as kind of a framework and model language. And I will say this, I'm going to put in a plug for these two guys right here. We work very, very closely together, and I can tell you that a lot of our industries, our seafood industry specifically, they've done such a great job. Our crawfish industry has often felt like they were kind of the redheaded stepchild, and they've really done some good things to advance the industry. Huh?
So no, it's the pecan industry.
I don't think they have any bias to any particular commodity.
We just need people to come to
the
us.
crawfish industry 7-8 years ago, or was at the point we were at. Now, what happened to motivate all the growers to do it was China was dumping crawfish, and that motivated them to do it. But they were landing out crop.
It's very simple.
And
You have two industries in crawfish.
Yep.
You have the basin versus pond. It's a lot of cash. It's all cash money. It's very simple.
Very simple, but it has helped them immensely. I used to be in the crawfish.
And that's where you had the apprehension on the assessment, especially with crawfish. When it is a cash economy and you're going through the government, if it is cash, no one wants, nobody in the basin wants anybody to know how much they're making. Trust me on that.
The reporting part of it.
Right. It makes it difficult to really legitimize with the industry. I mean, I can tell you what the Ag Summary says in terms of how much they're contributing to the economic value on paper. It's so much more.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
In fact, we've had meetings where they've even backed up their trucks against the building to make sure you couldn't see the license plate. I mean, this is serious. Yeah, tell them the IRS is, here at the meeting, man. Mention the IRS. That's fighting words.
Oh yeah.
And so some of these things, I encourage you to start even looking at your own branding. $34 million.
We participated in that year 4 last, and but we need to go further with it.
And you could, you can develop your own brand. Georgia's done it. And they've done really, really good. Georgia peaches. There's a number of different things, even regional type things like Ruston peaches. You know, so there's, you know, start looking at those types of opportunities. You don't have to use any of our programs, is what I'm saying. I mean, we'd be more than happy to share. But, I mean, the economic value is such that I think it's something to consider. You definitely need to have usage restrictions as to who can use it and how to use it and what it's going to be used for. And, you know, and you trademark it and everything else. But, you know, a brand and a slogan, you know.
Kerry,
Not really.
Ruston Peaches was one of the first value added that was awarded. What they needed to market the peaches that they didn't have a market for already. So they started marketing over the internet, and their sales in 3 months went up 30-something%.
Wow.
The crawfish, and the last value added last year was a crawfish farmer from Ville Platte.
Yeah, I mean, these, you know, when you have an orchestrated marketing effort and the group speaks with one unified voice, it's amazing what can be done. You know, for crawfish, I don't know if you saw some of the signs, ask before you eat. You know, I mean, when you had the threat of the Chinese crawfish and everything else, talk about motivation. And people, I mean, I do.
Yeah.
Restaurants don't particularly like it, and if it's not from here, I won't eat it. It's my prerogative. You know, we also want to work with our restaurants to develop a program we're calling a Dine Fresh, and it's going to be voluntary. But if a restaurant serves, let's say, 25% Louisiana products, then we'll advertise them. And you know, I mean, Jolie's, for example, in Lafayette. You go on the back of their menu and they'll say duck from such and such, pecans from such and such, Bellacourt cheese from, say, Martinville, and that's, I mean, their marketing, you know, everything that they market is local and seasonal. And so you have a lot of restaurants who are looking for it. You know, you could develop a nice list by region of where the producers are located. You know, and work with those chefs. They, trust me, they want Louisiana products. You know, even though it's more expensive, they want it.
Yeah, because you don't know, I mean, like I've always said, we don't know when crawfish comes from China. Where has it been at? Where has it been, you know, what kind of water? Is it sewage water? We don't know this. We over here, you know what I'm saying? And over here in Louisiana, I mean, in the United States, how can you say, we gotta chemicals, you gotta watch, you know, everything is just, how you say is they watch us, okay? But yeah, we send our stuff over there, that's what I can't understand, and we take all the garbage, that's why I feel all the people are so sick. But we don't know where that crawfish been growing and I mean, living at in China.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you could say that probably for any of the, anything that's imported. I think that's why this local movement has been so important. You know, farmers markets have really been, you've seen such an increase in farmers markets, and because people want the local products.
That's right.
And they've made it an event. They bring their kids, they go out at 8 o'clock, they grab a cup of coffee, they go to the different booths. They also want to talk to the producer. They want to look at them, they want to hear the story, they want to know when it was picked or when it was processed, whatever the food is or the commodity. But they want to begin to have a relationship with who grew their food. It just is. Moms are the biggest consumers. They want to know. I mean, somebody sent me a mommy blog the other day, and it was about arsenic and rice. I said, don't be. But I mean, this information with the internet, it gets out. It definitely does. So, you know, and I think
now it's on the news. Arsenic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I can't tell you how many calls we have about arsenic and rice. You know, I mean, I was born and raised. Yeah, I mean, and then they said, don't buy it from Louisiana, Texas, or Missouri. And I'm like, man, I was born and raised eating medium grain rice.
Yes. In our area, yes.
You know, I mean, I'm perfectly healthy. I think I am. So anyway, that's what you have going for you. You're starting to see a bigger push for local products. You know, we're looking at, I can tell you from a regulatory standpoint, we've been asked to look at good agricultural practices, GAPs, or, you know, BMPs. I know that there's a big push right now from the regulatory community, especially from an environmental standpoint. The LSU Ag Center has programs like the Master Farmer Program. That's a marketing tool, because the other buzzword alongside with local is sustainable. And so I encourage you to look at that program and see if there's ways to be able to participate. And it's just another layer and another marketing tool that you have for you. But back to the GAPs, it's something that we're looking at as being a voluntary program and kind of doing a self-audit and things like that. But with what's going on, and we just came back from Iowa, from all the commissioners of agriculture met in Iowa, and food safety was one of the highest on the list. And knowing that one event or one accident can cripple an industry. So I would encourage you to make sure, you know, that the industry, of course, if there's any assistance that we can provide from our department in terms of food safety, please by all means let us know. And you know, this will be not from a regulatory standpoint, but from an assistance standpoint. And if there's anything we can do to help you in that.
Say something about the records reporting thing. A good example. We had the icon soup for crawfish. I went for a judge, and we did it with our court, and they got they won. They got a huge pot of money, and there was a huge group of farmers who were affected. But the only ones who got any were the ones who had records to prove they had actually sustained losses. The rest of those guys got zilch. And there was a real grievous injury to them. It was a terrible, unforeseen event with a chemical that didn't even have anything to do with crawfish farming.
Right, but from a
Which could happen
standpoint,
to us.
I can understand that, but from a standpoint of working for the government and being able, you know, we administer some disaster assistance programs. If somebody comes to me and say, look, I'm telling you, my crop was damaged, $2 million. And I'll say, okay, all right, show me. I mean, I can't.
Yeah.
Somebody comes, you know, I mean, BP was a prime example. You know, come time for records, you have to show. Well, my boat's in my girlfriend's name. Okay, all right, well, show us. Well, I can't show you. Well, how much damage did you suffer? Well, you know, and they actually started to look at CAD, but you know, I mean,
they literally went and knocked door to door to find the people, and you know, they were reaching out to them, but
you know, I can tell
that's
you,
exactly what happened.
disaster, you know, back to the crawfish, you know, disaster assistance has been big, you know, especially with the Farm Bill. Our disaster assistance provisions from the Farm Bill expired September 30th, 2011. I remember crawfish coming to us and saying, okay, we got damage. You know, we're a double cropping system for rice. We received legitimate damage. And if you look and see when the hurricane season is, it makes perfect sense. So we want to be able to get disaster assistance. Okay, all right. Well, you have to be a legitimate business and be able to show records.
So the hurricane damage for us is the same thing.
Same thing. Citrus, same thing. I know for Isaac, they're saying that they got about 80% loss, which is way above the threshold that USDA is requiring. But did you participate? Did you? And the federal government, from a crop insurance standpoint, they want to know that you're participating, you're trying to protect yourself through the NAP program. And I know
That's only $200, but but the trick with the NAP program is you've got to get there yourself, because if they don't let you know.
What's the NAP program?
so. The NAP program is it's kind of an insurance program, so to speak, that they want you to be insured. It's like having car insurance. They want you to have some level of protection that you've done yourself, versus they're saying it's a government bailout. So they want you to be able to take matters into your own hands and be responsible for your crops by participating in NAP. If you don't have NAP, you don't get crop insurance.
Yeah, well, what you do is you pay $200, it's about $250, and one time every year, per crop. But I mean, if you got this parish and this parish and this parish, you have farms in it, it's all well done, covered up there. But if you don't have that, you can't get any disaster assistance at all.
You pay $250 who?
To the government,
FSA.
the government, FSA. And they, and it's not, you don't get much. I mean, the NAP insurance is
You don't pay much, but you don't get much of it back.
Yeah.
But you gotta lose a certain percentage,
Over 50%.
over 50% of the parish average. And what you mentioned earlier with, and I work next door to FSA, but, hay's the same way, sweet potatoes, tree nuts, orchards, all the non-traditional crops, vegetables, watermelon. You have to make a decision if you're gonna do it or not. You kinda gotta look at a crystal ball, but you have to make less than, it's a certain percentage of parish average. If you're not going in, and I'll talk a little bit more about the eligibility part, if you're not going in and registering with FSA what your yields are, you have nothing to stand on. I've seen it in hay crops. I mean, you know, if you can't prove your yields, you have to go by what the parish average is. And if the parish average is 250 pounds per acre, and you lost 200, that's all, you're not getting nothing. So it comes down to documentation. What y'all doing here today, I applaud y'all for, because y'all are getting more information, and it's something that we need to get out there and do it. But you have to document it.
And each district FSA reads that, interprets that language different. Alexander Colfax, you weren't, in Gustav, you weren't eligible for it. Oh, that's just for chemical spills and this and that. And by the time I got to the upper level, the program had closed to get it. But I know what to do now, and they will never have to hire again.
Well, there was a provision where you could be grandfathered in for certain programs or whatever else, but you had to meet certain eligibility criteria.
Well, they changed that this year too, that if you're not to be grandfathered into anything, you have to be a beginning farmer or socially disadvantaged. Anybody else, you don't get grandfathered, you don't get squatted.
And beginning farmer is
10 years or less.
10 years or less.
And the way you prove that was, most people, if you farm or if you report under your name as an individual, you have your Schedule F. You have to show the last 10 years that you didn't have a Schedule F more than 10 years.
one last thing before I forget, because I'm thinking of time you've been farming. We have a program called Legacy Farms, which is going to recognize producers or operations that have been in existence for 100 years or older. So if you know of anybody, or if you yourself, regardless of what the farm is, I know some of our sugarcane farms have been in operation for at least 100 years. I know Brett Allens has been in operation for 100 years, and still within the family. It's just a nice, feel-good thing. We went to Iowa, and I mean, they have hundreds of farms participating in that. And one guy had said, I've been waiting 15 years to get this sign or whatever else. And he actually came up with a walker. He had his wife, his kids, and his grandkids that all went up there. And, you know, it's something that he felt that he could pass down to his kids. And so, you know, we have these strong family ties here, and definitely family farms around here. So that's something that we want to promote, and definitely publicize in Louisiana, that we got a lot of family farms.
Right, and the only thing I was saying is, you can see how they talk about if you improve your yield, like she said, that more than a suit they had and everything else. To me, I hate to say, go back to the Bible, that to me, if you're not honest, you're not gonna get blessed. You know what I'm saying? So that person, you know, you got to say what you get and be honest so that you can be blessed in the Lord. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's my dispute.
I hear you. I hear you. So, and I'm sure the gentleman from NRCS has a lot more information. I'm at the state level, so they administer a lot more programs.